Good afternoon, everyone. We continue our study in the book of Judges. Today we are at chapter 17. Now, chapters 17, 18, 19, all the way to 20, the last five chapters has a little bit of a dispute in some ways. But I guess as we go through the last five chapters, you will eventually see that these five chapters are a record of three major events that actually took place earlier in the book of Judges, but for some reason, the writer of the book of Judges had placed them at the end of the book so that it doesn't disrupt the flow of the record of the Judges. Now, after Samson, we'll continue on towards the book of Samuel. Now, what is important for us to realize then from chapter 17 to 21, these events are most likely to have happened up front, way up front. Perhaps, I guess, in the fourth, after 14 years after they crossed the Jordan, right? After 14 years after they crossed the Jordan. And we'll talk about that next week. But for now, when we enter into chapter 17, just make note that this is not continuing from where we left off in chapter 16 with regards to Samson. It is most likely an event way up front in the early chapters of the book of Judges. Again, it begins with and then. We're talking about a man from the mountains of Ephraim. Now we need to understand the geography. Uh, Judah is in the south. Bordering Judah would be Benjamin. And then north of Benjamin is Ephraim. And this would be the river coming down. And somewhere in Ephraim, there are tens of Dan. Now, Dan is a tribe that is now moving around each of the tribes because they don't have a permanent piece of land just yet. So just bear in mind, we are talking about a man from Ephraim. Now, above Ephraim would be Manasseh. And then this would be the area where we have Manasseh west and then Manasseh east. Now, what is important now is that we are talking about the area of Ephraim. There was a man whose name was Micah. Now, this is not his full name. So we need to know his full name at this point in time. It's Micah Yahu. Maybe we should write it this way. Micah Yahu. It's a two-part name. Micah Yahu. Now, Micah Yahu uh, literally means who is like Jehovah. Micah is who is like. And then you have the name Yah at the back or Yahoo here at the back. So the name would be in full, who is like God, right? Micah or Micaiah. So this is an abbreviation for Micaiah. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out to you is that somewhere after verse 4, the name drops off, or Yahoo, the last part here drops off, and it just becomes Micah. So please pay attention that in verse 1 to 4, this is Mikayahu. Now, oftentimes people would think that, well, Mika is short form for Mikayahu. It is, but the missing name has a significance. So this man said to his mother, and there is a specific amount of money, 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you and on which you put a curse, even saying it in my ears, here is the silver with me, I took it. And this is the man, Mikayahu, and he admits to taking the mother's money. And we're talking about 1,100 shekels of silver. That's the amount of money that the well, I guess you could say that the we won't call him the woman who was with Samson. That's uh Delilah. And she had used and taken the 1,100 uh, shekels of silver to trap Samson. Now, the way that the story in chapter 17 begins is the linkage in concept, the 1,100 shekels of silver in chapter 16 was given to Delilah. In chapter 17, we talk about this man, Mikayahu, who had stolen it from his mother, and then he admits, yes, I have taken it. Then he says, and then his mother says this, says, may you be blessed by Jehovah, right? Jehovah. And they worship Jehovah. Says, may Jehovah bless you, my son. So when he had returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to the mother, then the mother said, well, this is what I want to do. I have wholly dedicated the silver from my hand to the Lord for my son to make a carved image and a molded image. Now, this is one and the same. In verse 3, uh, a carved image and a molded image is an A and a B. And so the idea here is uh, a carved image literally means an image that is handmade. Handmade image. The second word here is something that you pour into a mold. And so the whole concept here is you first you create a molded structure and then hand carve it in a way where it enhances the details. So here, by way of review, 1,100 shekels of silver uh, in chapter 17 is very much independent of the 1,100 shekels of silver in chapter 16. The mother decided to use the 1,100 shekels of silver as if to God, Jehovah, and she makes an image with it, meaning to take 1,100 shekels of silver, melt it down, and then cast it as a molten image. Now, therefore, I will return it to you. So the mother gave it back to Mikayahu. Now, in verse 4, there is an and then, right? This is an and then. He returned the silver to his mother. Says, I don't want it. The mother instead took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith, somebody who works with silver. And then he made it into a carved image and a molten image. There is only one image, right? This is a way of expressing And you would see that this is not uh, they, and it was, right? And it was in the house of Mika Yahu. Up to this stage, the name of God is still attached to Mika. Mika Yahu is a short form of who is like. Who is like Yahoo? This is actually a statement or a question, but the idea here is Mika Yahoo literally refers to a statement who is like Jehovah. And so, in the idea of a grandeur and a glory and an honor to God. But now, what happened in this story has taken a really bad turn. Not only that the mother thought that by doing this, it is an honor to Jehovah, it is an absolutely wrong thing to do. And so sometimes you wonder how a person who is supposedly thinking about God go that far wrong to make a little image to represent God when they clearly know that they shouldn't, but they did. And so even foolish people sometimes when they think of God does foolish things. Verse 5. Now, when we get to verse 5, then the name Mika has no more Yahoo, has no more name of God. It says, this man, Mika, had a shrine. Now, in verse 5, a shrine literally means uh, a house of Elohim, right? This word here literally means house of Elohim. And not only he had a house of Elohim, and the English calls it a shrine. It's a place to keep the God, the Elohim image God, right? And besides that, he made an ephod. The ephod is the garment of a high priest, right? A garment for the high priest. And then together with that, uh, there were, well, you call it household idols, and better known as teraphim. The idea of teraphim literally tells us that these are idols that they worship, who is nothing to do with God, the Creator God. And so these are little idols. We call them idols, and it's in the plural. And then what happened was he tried uh, to make one of his sons to become his priest. Now there is this concept that in Shiloh was the tabernacle, and God had the Ark of the Covenant there. And then there are Levites who are from the house of Aaron, and they became priests. So Levites from the house of Aaron became priests. The rest of the Levites will serve in the tabernacle. The background of this event, and it is such a bad event, is this. In those days, there was no king in Israel, meaning It is not in the book of First Samuel yet. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes, which is quite often in the book of Judges. They had time of peace and then they had turbulence. Now, when we come to verse 7, after verse 6, and then there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah. Now, there are two Bethlehems if you're not careful. There is the uh, Bethlehem in Ephraim, and there is a Bethlehem in Judah. So let me just put that down. There is also one in Ephraim and one in Judah. And Bethlehem in Judah is south of Jerusalem. Now, this young man came from Bethlehem. Now, young man here is a Nahar, and this is a good word, very young. A very young man of the family of Judah. And then he was a Levite and he was staying there. So understand this. He was of the family of Judah. Now, this is considered a clan or from the nation, right? From the nation of Judah. And basically, when we are looking back in the book of Judges, uh, it is to understand that Judah is down south, right? Judah is down south, and Ephraim is north. And so this young man came up from Bethlehem and he went up to Ephraim and he met up with Micah Yahu. And from verse 5, he's now called Micah, who is like. Basically, Micah is who is like, without the name of God anymore. Now, some people think that it's a short form, but perhaps it is significant that when the name of God was removed from his name, the acts that he had done or Micah had done is really awful. So, this young man, a Levite, and so this is a Levite. Now, how is Levite with Judah? First of all, we must always remember the Levites is not part and parcel of the 12 tribes that receive inheritance. The Levites is set apart to serve God. And the idea there was that the Levites were staying all over the land of Israel. And at this point in time, the tabernacle is in Shiloh. And Shiloh would be in Ephraim. And so this man is not going to Shiloh. He's just coming up north and had decided to stay in Ephraim. The man departed from the city of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. So he was looking for a new place to stay. And he happened to drop by the house of Micah. And then he came to the mountains of Ephraim. He came to the house of Micah. Now, notice in verse 8, there is no Micah Yahu, it's only Micah. From verse 5 onwards, Yahu, or the name of God, has been removed from the name of Micah. And so, as he journeyed, meaning as he walked, and Micah said to him, "Where do you come from? Where are you from?" This is in verse 9. It says, "Where are you from?" And then the Levite replied him and said, I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. And so, by to say that he's from the family of Judah, he is in the area where Judah is occupying. That's basically it. It is not to say that the Levite is also from Judah. It is that the Levites lived among the people of Judah. It says, and I am on my way to find a place to stay. Verse 10. And then, so we're missing some of these words. And then Micah said to him, then why don't you stay with me? And then you can be a father and a priest to me. Now, this is a very important offer. Say, stay with me. And then be a father and a priest. Be a father to guide and a priest to teach and perform sacrifices. This is a mimic of the tabernacle in Shiloh. And on top of that, Micah says, I will give you 10 shekels of silver per year. Now, we had talked about 1,100 shekels of silver, and the mother wants to make a molten image. Micah offered the young Levite 10 shekels of silver per year, a suit of clothes to change, and your sustenance. Think of it this way: when Samson was challenging the people at one time, he offered 120 suits. And so, suits of clothes is expensive, silver is a lot of money, and your sustenance, everything you eat, will be taken care of. And so, this is a deal of a lifetime. And so the young Levite went in. Now, this is and then. After all the offer was said and done, the Levite joined Micah. Verse 11. And then the Levite was content to dwell with the man, Micah, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. So, what is this? A father and a priest. And then here it says that the young man is like his son, which means that Micah is a father to this young man. But why did Micah say, be a father and priest to me? And I'll give you 10 shekels. Now, the idea of verse 10 is really to tell the young man that he is going to guide Micah. He is going to be respected like a father to be able to teach Micah what to do. And that is something which is very grand for a young man. Verse 12. And so Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in the house of Micah. This is verse 12. This idea of Micah consecrated, this literally means to uh, fulfill, right? To fulfill the Levite. This is not consecrate as in any particular religious word. In verse 12, the idea here is to be full, well, I guess to be full in hand. To be full in hand, to complete, to satisfy, to fulfill the Levite. And then the young man became priests. This would be a Kohen. Always remember, a Kohen is not just merely doing the rituals. The Kohen, being a priest, is also a teacher. He's also a leader. And so, a leader of this idea in the house of Micah, because that little 1100 shekels of silver is, well, think it this way, shekels of silver is approximately 20 pounds of silver. It is not much in terms of size. And so it's a little statuette that is made and put in the house as a house of God. And so the word shrine. This is like a little temple, and it is inside the house of Micah. Verse 13. And then Micah said, now I know that Jehovah will be good to me, since I have a Levite as Kohen. Everything is wrong with Micah. Now, what do you mean wrong with Micah? Because understand this, priest in the formal sense is a Levite, but also from the house of Aaron. And this is God deciding, right? Not Korah, not anybody else. So a Levite is not necessarily a priest unless he is from the family of Aaron. Otherwise, as a Levite, his job was to serve at the temple, at the tabernacle. And so Micah was trying to mimic the tabernacle, and he found somebody who was willing to be a paid priest. And he's made priest, basically, not because he was a priest, but because he was made into a priest. He was merely a Levite. And what we do see here now is that we have a problem. The problem is that Micah had formulated a place of worship in his house using a little statuette, not not a Ark of the Covenant, and using the statuette to depict Jehovah. So a foolish man trying to disobey the Ten Commandments, you shall not have any gods before me. But he made one with the almost 20 pounds of silver, a nice, decent object, maybe no more than a foot tall, weighing about 20 pounds. And this, they think, the mother thinks, Micah thinks that this can represent Jehovah. And so this Levite suddenly thought, wow, I have money, I have stature, and I have a place to stay. And I am no longer just a Levite, I'm also the priest. And suddenly, a Levite becoming a priest was a big thing to this young man. But he didn't realize everything he did was wrong. Because a Levite, unless you're from the tribe of Aaron, you can never become a priest. And so, with this, we can understand and surmise that the young lad from Bethlehem of Judah is not a true Kohen, meaning he is not from the house of Aaron. He is merely a Levite from the family of the Levites. But he got a pay rise, he got new clothes, he got a new role, and he had a new God. And with this, we are looking at a terrible situation which will continue in chapter 18. And so, with this, we come to the end of our session today.